Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into something really vital, how medicinal plants might help us fight drug-resistant infections.
Which is a huge issue. I mean, the WHO calls antimicrobial resistance a top global health threat.
Exactly. And we've got some interesting research looking at this, but also how climate change complicates the picture.
It really does. People have relied on plants for healing for, well, forever, across so many cultures.
So we're looking at the science behind that tradition and what climate change means for this sort of natural pharmacy.
It's a fascinating link. Plants produce this incredible diversity of chemicals, secondary metabolites.
Right, not just for basic growth, but for defense and other things.
Precisely. And many of these have antimicrobial properties that can act against bacteria, viruses, even fungi.
Okay, so let's unpack some of those. We're talking things like alkaloids. I know quinine for malaria comes from a plant.
That's a classic example from the cinchona tree. Berberine is another alkaloid. Then you have flavonoids, like in onions or green tea.
And terpenoids, like menthol.
Yep. Menthol from peppermint, thymol from thyme, even artemisinin, a key anti-malarial from sweet wormwood. And don't forget, tannins and essential oils like tea tree.
That's quite an arsenal.
It is. And what's really key is that it's often not just one compound. Plants work synergistically. The combination can be much more powerful than any single ingredient.
So like a team effort within the plant itself. How do they actually work against microbes?
Oh, various ways. Some compounds mess with the microbe's cell walls or membranes.
Okay.
Others interfere with making proteins or replicating DNA, fundamental processes.
So these plants have evolved some pretty effective defenses, but now climate change throws a wrench in the works.
It really does. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You have the direct impacts, changes in temperature, rainfall patterns, extreme weather.
Right.
These can stress the plants, reduce their growth, and crucially, alter their chemical composition. So the concentration of those antimicrobial compounds might change.
So a plant that was medicinal might become less so? Or maybe even more potent unpredictably?
Potentially, yes. And then there are the indirect effects. Climate change messes with pollinators or brings in new pests and diseases.
Affecting the plant's health and reproduction.
Exactly. Plants might also shift where they can grow as habitats change. And as they adapt to new conditions, their chemistry might change too.
It sounds like the reliability of these natural medicines is under threat.
It certainly adds layers of complexity.
Yeah, as we said, people have used these plants for ages. Traditional knowledge must be incredibly valuable here.
Absolutely. Think of Chinese medicine, Ayurveda in India, traditional African medicine. They all have vast knowledge about using local plants for infections. Science is now validating a lot of this.
And often, these traditional remedies are the only option or the most affordable one in many parts of the world.
That accessibility is crucial.
So if the potential is there and the traditional knowledge exists, what are the hurdles in, say, developing new drugs from these plants?
Well, it's challenging. Identifying and isolating the specific active compounds is tough. Plants make hundreds, thousands of different chemicals, often in tiny amounts.
Right.
And the exact mix can vary a lot. Plant to plant, season to season, location to location, genetics, environment, it all plays a role.
And testing them must be complex, too.
Definitely. You need standardized extracts, tests against many different microbes, including resistant ones. And then you need to see if it works in animals, eventually humans. It's a long process.
But the opportunities seem huge. New therapies against superbugs, maybe?
That's the major hope. And potentially a more sustainable approach than purely synthetic drugs, if done right. Think about organic cultivation, conserving biodiversity.
Supporting local communities, too, perhaps.
For sure. There can be real social and economic benefits.
Which brings us right back to sustainability. We can't just exploit these resources.
That's critical. We need sustainable harvesting practices, conservation of the plants and their habitats. We absolutely have to protect these ecosystems.
And integrate that traditional knowledge into conservation efforts.
Yes, definitely. And adopt climate-smart agriculture for cultivating these plants where needed. It all has to work together.
So the key takeaway seems to be medicinal plants hold real promise against antimicrobial resistance, a promise complicated but not erased by climate change. We need careful science, respect for tradition, and a strong commitment to sustainability.
Well put. It leads to a really important question for all of us, I think.
Which is?
Given these tangled challenges, climate change, antibiotic resistance, how do we actually support the research and, crucially, the sustainable use of these plants to really benefit global health now and, for the future?
Something definitely worth thinking about.